The decision by Attorney General Holder on Friday to try Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and 4 of his alleged 9/11 conspirators at a New York City civilian court triggered fierce criticism and strong praise. We're going to hear both sides of the argument today, starting with former Mayor Rudy Giuliani. And Mayor, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Nice to be back, Chris.
I want to start with comments that Attorney General Holder made on Friday when he announced his decision. Here they are.
After 8 years of delay, those allegedly responsible for the attacks of September the 11th will finally face justice. They will be brought to New York, to answer for their alleged crimes in a courthouse just blocks away from where the Twin Towers once stood.
Mayor, as a matter of simple justice, isn't it right to bring these men back to the scene of the crime?
Why? We generally don't do that. We generally don't bring people back to the scene of the crime for justice. The reality, we didn't do that in our other wars. It would seem to me what the Obama administration is telling us loud and clear is that both in substance and reality, the war on terror from their point of view is over. We're no longer going to treat these people as if this was an act of war. We're going to go back to the pre-9/11 approach that we had in 1993, trying it as a civilian matter, which turned out to be a terrible mistake. They are repeating the mistake of history.
But your successor, Mayor Bloomberg, disagrees with you on almost every point. He says it is, quote, fitting to try these men in downtown New York City. He says that your city has handled big terror trials before, and he says the New York City Police Department can handle the security issues. Is Mayor Bloomberg wrong?
I don't agree with him. I mean, the reality is I agree with him that New York City Police Department can handle the security, no question about it. And, of course, if the case had to be in New York, we should handle it. It doesn't have to be. There are going to be military tribunals for other terrorists. Why wouldn't you have military tribunals for this terrorist? And, of course, it's going to create more security concerns. Just wait and see how much money New York City spends on this in order to protect him. And finally, we're kind of granting his wish. His wish was to be brought to New York. And it really makes no sense to me to be granting him his wish. He should be tried in a military tribunal. He is a war criminal. This was an act of war. We made this mistake once before in 1993. We didn't read the intentions correctly, and then we ended up with 3 more attacks on American soldiers and the attack of September 11th. It would seem to me that the Obama administration would read that history and not make this mistake. But, of course, this is the administration that told us that there was no war on terror. The only problem is the terrorists seem to believe there is a war on us.
But Mayor, I want to pick up on this argument that it's a mistake to treat terrorists as common criminals in a civilian court. I want to take you back to what you said after the prosecution of the 1993 World Trade Center bombers. You said this: I think it shows you put terrorism on one side, you put our legal system on the other, and our legal system comes out ahead. And after the 2006 trial of the so-called 20th hijacker, Zacarias Moussaoui, you said it shows that we can give people a fair trial, that we are exactly what we say we are. We are a nation of war. Respectfully, Mayor, you supported civilian trials for terrorists then.
And if there's no other alternative, I support civilian trials for terrorists. The reality is there is another alternative here, and this administration has created tribunals. At least 5, possibly more terrorists are going to be tried in those tribunals. If there was no other choice, again, Chris, I support this. If there was no other choice and they had to be tried in New York, of course they should be tried in New York. But the reality is there is another choice. It is a better choice for the government. This choice of New York is a better choice for the terrorists. Why would you seek to give the terrorists a better choice than you're giving the public?
But
and
Mayor,
finally,
Mayor,
with regard to 1993, it turns out we were wrong in 1993. That was a mistake. Most experts have come to that conclusion.
Well, what about 2006 with Zacarias Moussaoui?
I would have preferred to see him tried in a military court than a civilian court. If it's going to be a civilian court, well, then let's convict him. Let's do it as well as we can. But the reality is this gives all the benefits to the terrorists and much less benefits to the public. And finally, we are doing what he wants us to do.
Mayor?
He is asking for a trial in New York, and we're giving it to him. Since when are we in the business of granting the wishes of terrorists?
Mayor, some of these detainees have been held for 8 years. KSM, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, has been held for 6.5 years. What about the argument that the Bush administration had these guys for all these years, couldn't set up military commissions that passed constitutional muster, and at least this president is ending the delay in bringing them to justice?
Yes, he should end the delay and he should bring them to justice in a military court. We spent 6 or 7 years developing a constitutionally permissible military tribunal. He's satisfied with it. He's going to use it. What the heck is he bringing this guy to New York for when he doesn't have to, other than to give this guy more benefits than he's entitled to? This seems to be an over-concern with the rights of terrorists and a lack of concern for the rights of the public.
Mayor, you keep asking, and it's a certainly legitimate question, why is the president doing this? I'm going to throw it back at you. You talked earlier, I think on Friday, about that this is a choice of process over safety. Why do you think President Obama and Attorney General Holder have made this decision?
Well, I think they think that somehow this is going to increase our reputation overseas. I think it's part of a whole package of the president not seeing the war on terror. After all, he tells us that we can't use the description war on terror. Problem is the terrorists aren't listening to him. They're continuing to make war on us. He has delayed inordinately in making this decision about the war strategy in Afghanistan, when in fact he criticized President Bush for not paying enough attention to Afghanistan. The delay there, Chris, is political strategy, not war strategy. And finally, this whole thing with Major Hassan is another indication that he doesn't get it. He doesn't get the fact that there is an Islamic war against us. Major Hassan made it easy. He yelled out when he was doing the shooting, Allah Akbar, and now it turns out that he has business cards with Son of Allah printed on the business card. Not so hard to figure out that this was yet another Islamic terrorist attack on American soil, now the second one that we've had in this decade, and we had one in 1993.
Mayor Giuliani, we want to thank you. Thanks so much for coming in today. It's always good.
Thank you very much,
Always a pleasure to
Chris.
talk with you, sir.
Always a pleasure to talk to you, too.